Hi Year 9. So today what we're going to look at is marking our key marking task that you should have done at the lesson 3 last week. So make sure that you've got your key marking task in front of you now, so pause this if you haven't got it. Okay, hopefully you realise that Miss Corbin did the lessons for you last week, so those of you that observed would have worked that one out. Okay, so you're back to me this week. Okay, right, that's Mrs. Judge, by the way. Okay, so what we're going to do is have a look through this. You've got an assessment this week on Active Learn, so it's really important that you fully understand this topic so you can answer those questions on Active Learn and submit your answers, and then I'll be able to see how you've got on with the topics. Okay, lots of you have talked about having a bit of difficulty with this topic. What I suggest that you do is before the Active Learn task that you have at the end of this week, is you go back through all the videos that we've had on the finding an angle, finding a side, and the ones you've done with Miss Corbin as well. Okay, and make sure that you're prepared for that. Okay, so let's have a look at these. So go through, mark, okay, correct. Okay, I'm not taking your scores in or anything. Okay, I'm just interested in how interested that you're able to do them, and I'm going to show you how I would tackle these very questions. Okay, now the first one here. So I've got to mark, to remember what this was, theta in the corresponding position. So what I need to do is label the side. So if I look at this one here, I know that that's the hypotenuse. Therefore, this is the angle in the question. So this one's my opposite, and this is my adjacent. So again here, hypotenuse, the angle's over here. So this is my opposite, and this is my adjacent. So here, I know that this one's my hypotenuse. Okay, so this is the shorter one, so this one here, so my angle then will go here. Okay, therefore this is my adjacent and this is my opposite. So mark theta in this here, so you had to have this angle here for 1 mark. Complete this identity. Identity means the things that are exactly the same. So AC, which is the opposite, is equal to DE, which is the opposite, which is equal to this one, HJ. Okay. Now you may have written JH, that's fine. Okay, so that's another mark. And then here, AB, well, AB is the hypotenuse. So we've got this one's hypotenuse. We wanted to know this one, so this one's EF. Okay. Or FE is fine as well. Normally we put them in alphabetical order for your second mark. Is AC over AB sine, cos or tan? Well, if we look at AC, AC is opposite and AB is hypotenuse. So knowing what you now know as it's SOHCAHTOA, okay, it's sine, isn't it? So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so the answer there is sine. Okay, and that's for your 4th mark. Okay, question 2. So label the sides of the triangle. Okay, so this one is the opposite because it's opposite the 63. This is the hypotenuse because it's opposite the right angle, and this is the adjacent because it's next to the angle in question. Okay, so that was worth 1 mark. Right. Calculate T to 2 decimal places. So I want to know this length here, the adjacent, and I know the hypotenuse. So I'm not actually interested in that one. Do you remember my 5 steps that we did? So which one uses adjacent and hypotenuse? And that is this one here. So I'm wanting to find the adjacent. So adjacent is equal to cos times hypotenuse. Okay, because it's cos times hypotenuse. Okay, so if we've got that there, so that's 2 marks there, and then if you just type that into your calculators, okay, so 12 times cos 63 will give you 5.45 centimetres. Okay, notice that the answer wanted it to 2 decimal places, so you get 1 for this one. Another one if you can see cos 63 times 12, okay, and as long as I can see cos written somewhere, that's another mark. Obviously, if you've done it another way and you've got the answer 5.45, you will get all 3 marks. Okay. question 3. I'll make this straight now. So ABC is a right angle triangle and the right angles at B. So I've started to have a sketch of this. So we know the length of BC. Okay, BC is 48 centimetres. Okay, so I'll pop that in. And the angle BAC, so that's this angle up here, is 34 degrees. Now you may have done this sketch a little bit different. You may have done it like this. So you may have, I don't know, B, you could have had A down here, okay, and you could have had C up there. And as long as you've written BC, you might have 48 here, and you might have this one as 34. It's the same triangle, it's just drawn in a different way, okay? We don't actually know at the moment which is the longer side of these two, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we've got the relevant information on. We want to find the length of AC, so we are wanting to find the hypotenuse. So, and this one therefore will be the opposite. So which of my sine, cos or tan uses hypotenuse and opposite? And that will be sine. Okay, so we know that SOH, going back to our way that we did it before, so we're wanting to find the hypotenuse. So hypotenuse is equal to opposite over sine. So let's write that down. Now the opposite in this case is 48, and we're looking at sine 34. So 48 divided by sine 34 is going to be 85.8 centimetres. Okay, now this one's worth 4 marks. Obviously, if you've got this one, it's all of the marks. Okay, well, it was 1 mark for doing the sketch. So 1 mark for the sketch, 1 mark for identifying that it would be sine, 1 mark for seeing this, and 1 mark here for the final answer there. Okay. So we've got a slide. We want to work out the angle here. So let's label our 2 sides. We know that this one's the opposite because it's opposite the angle in the question. This one's the adjacent because it's next to the angle in the question and it's not the hypotenuse. So we need to use tan. Okay, remember tan is this one here. Okay, so we're wanting to find the angle. So tan theta is opposite over adjacent. Now we just want the angle, so we have to shift that tan over. And the opposite here is 4.5 and the adjacent is 10.2. So we pop that in our calculator and we end up with 23.8 degrees. Obviously you can get all 3 marks if you've got that correct. If you're missing something, if I can see these digits here, that's another mark, or if I can just see that you thought it was tan, that's a mark there. Okay. Question 5. Okay, I've just had a look at this one as well, and you do have to read the question and understand a lot of it is actually quite waffly. Okay, so the building regulations state that garden shed must be no more than 2.5 metres high if they're less than 2 metres from the boundary fence. The diagram shows the proposed symmetrical cross-section of a shed that will be built within 2 metres of the boundary fence. So therefore, hopefully you've worked out that we cannot be above 2.5 metres. Okay, that's the maximum that we're allowed it to be. So what we've got to do, we know this is 1.9, we've got to find this little bit here. Okay, now the first thing you need to do is think about this triangle. Now we know that that's 3.5 metres, so this is 1.75 metres here. So you get 1 mark for, and this one we know that's a right angle, so that's going to have to be 15 degrees. So you've got 1 mark there for actually somehow showing that that's 1.75 and 15. Okay, they've actually got a little diagram down there that you could have actually popped that on. So I'm just going to be looking at this triangle here. Okay, so I want to know this height. Okay, so this one's my opposite because it's opposite the angle that I know. This one's my adjacent because it's next to the angle I know. So I know that I'm using tan. Okay, right, I'm wanting to find the opposite, so opposite is equal to tan times adjacent. So opposite equals tan 15 times 17.5. Okay, so for the marks on this one, okay, you get 1 mark for indicating that you know it's tan. So you've got 1 mark there for labelling these. Another one for saying it's tan. Another one for this one here. Right, then for working it out, which will be 0.47 metres. So up to 4 marks. Then we've got to add that on to the 1.9 metres. 1.9 metres, add 0.47 metres. Okay, makes 2.37 metres. So we now know that the height of the shed is 2.37 metres. That's our 5 marks. And our last one, is it too tall or is it okay? Well, it's within the boundaries, so it's not too tall. You often have that actually answering the question at the end. Okay, so that's your 6th mark. Okay, nearly there. Right, so this graph is your cos graph. So again, you did this work, Miss Corbin set you this work to do. So your cos graph always starts at 1 and has a full rotation between 0 and 360 degrees. Okay, so that's the full one there. We've got an amplitude of 1, so it goes up 1 and then down to -1. So that's our cos graph. Now our sine graph, you had to put in the values here, so you can just type them in your calculator. So you pop them in there. So the answers here would have been 0, 0.5, 1, 0, minus 0.87, -1, and 0. They were the missing ones that you had there. Then you had to plot them. Okay, so I'll just find my pencil. Now, obviously the harder one there was the 0.87, one slightly different thing. Your graphs should always be smooth and always drawn without a ruler. Okay, so plotting them there, again, the same amplitude, so it goes up to 1. Do you remember when we used to do quadratic graphs and we always said they've got to be smooth and curvy? Okay, so no pointy bits here, so I'm just trying to make that as smooth as possible. Okay, lovely. So I'll just go over that with highlighters so you can see it different than the other one. So your graph should look like this. Okay, so this is your sine graph and this is your cos graph. So the sine graph always starts at 0 and the cos graph starts at 1. Okay, right, so allocating the marks here. So you've got 1 mark for filling in the table. Well, that was just a calculator exercise. You've got 2 marks for drawing the smooth graph. Okay, how many points of intersection are up there? Well, it intersects there and it intersects there, so there's 2 points of intersection. Okay, so that's our 4th mark. For which values does sine 0 equal sine theta equal cos theta? Well, that's these 2 bits where they cross, and that would have been 45. So you can see it's halfway. Okay, it's halfway between 0 and 90. So it was 45 degrees and 225 degrees. Okay, 1 mark for each. Okay, excellent. Right, what you're going to do now, hopefully you did have a printer, but I do understand that some of you don't have printers. Go through, be honest with yourself, and rag your work and keep it in your book. This sort of stuff is great for when you're in year 10. Now, lesson 2 this week, you're going to do a retrieval. Well, lesson 1 and 2, so you're going to start it now because that's only taken you 15 minutes or so. You're going to do a retrieval resource all about trigonometry, okay, and a little bit of Pythagoras. You're going to have an assessment on the 3rd lesson this week on those things on Active Learn. The retrieval resource, you can use ICT, you can hand make it, but it's got to include examples and it's got to be informative. It should represent about 90 minutes of work, so I will let you know if it does not. Okay, right, so good luck and well done everyone. Bye bye.